Okay. Sure. Oh, cool. Welcome, Shar. Okay. So I'm Maria and I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia. Why don't we just go ahead and everyone just go around and say their name and where they're from. Amy, you want to go first?
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. All right. Someone else want to jump in? Amy? Okay. All right.
All right.
Um,
Um,
that's strange.
that's strange.
Getting an echo here. I don't know why. All right. Patricia, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and where you're from? I can't, you're, okay, I'm going to see if I can unmute everybody and that might make it easier. Where do I do that? Oh, for God's sakes. This is awful. I'm so sorry. I did not expect this. I've never had this happen before.
I think my sound is working. I can introduce myself and we can start that way if you want.
Okay,
Yeah. I'm Cassie. I'm from Kentucky, and I'm also got a little bit of a cold, just like Erica. So sorry for sounding kind of froggy today.
that's okay. All right. Anyone else?
Okay, I'm Hillary, and I live in Wilmington, Delaware, on the east coast of the U.S.
Cool. Okay. Amy, are you ready now? No, we can't hear you.
I'll go ahead. Hello? Can
Go ahead.
anybody hear me? I'm Erica, and I'm not putting my picture up today because I'm very snotty and cold. So, so I'm from I'm from Bristol, England or UK. So, and it's sunny, very cold, and I'm wrapping up warm. Good to see everybody.
Good to see you. Well, you've been on the community for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Still
Cool.
got a lot to learn.
Okay, who would like to go next? Marlene.
Hi,
Oh, good. Who's that?
Bridget.
Oh, Bridget, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Bridget. I'm from London, and it's cold here as well, not so unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
So nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, welcome. It's good to see you. Some people I know and some people I don't know, and that's always lovely. Okay. Who would like to go next?
Sure.
All right, Marlene.
Okay, I'm Marlene. I live in New Jersey, and I did the 2018 online B with Jody. That's how I got to be involved in this community, which I'm grateful for. Thank you.
Mhm. Good to see you again. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Okay, Tamara.
Hi, I'm Tamara. I live in Marietta, Georgia, which is in the United States.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm Shar, Toronto, Canada.
How are you, Shar?
I'm okay, hanging in there.
Good for you. Are you feeling better?
Fighting the good fight.
Good. We all are, actually.
Yeah, well, it's nice to be here and see everyone's faces.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Maria.
Sure. Good to see you. Who else would like to go ahead?
Hi, I'm Jane from Annapolis, Maryland.
Oh, welcome. I used to live up in Laurel.
I know. And I'm so bummed that I didn't get to meet you while you still lived here.
Well,
Yeah.
Lynchburg isn't too far, but it is pretty far.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hike.
Yeah, 4 or 5 hours. That's a bit much. We still have more people coming in, so. Okay, so who else would like to go ahead? We're just introducing ourselves for newcomers, just say our name and where we're from, and then we're going to get into the discussion.
I'm Julie, and
Julie.
I live in the UK, in the northeast of England.
Wonderful. So, let me see, northeast of England. Where would,
Newcastle,
oh, okay, all right.
Newcastle. Mhm.
It's one of the places in Europe I never got to see yet, the UK. So I just look at all the gardens online and I'm always in awe.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of heading towards Scotlandish, but
Ah.
not Scotland.
Very cool. Okay, who else would like to say hello? Mary, have we heard from you?
Oh, I'm Marielle.
Hi. Where are you located?
Limbo.
Limbo. Oh, okay. Well, that's where most of us feel we are these days. Everything is so crazy in the world, isn't it? Okay. Who else haven't we heard from? Laura, did we talk to you?
Yeah, hi, I'm Laura. I'm from Coventry in the UK, so kind of the Midlands part of the UK.
I saw the movie Once Upon a Time in the Midlands. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Well, it is a funny movie. It is really a hysterical movie. So if you get a chance to see it, it's worth seeing. It'll make you laugh. Yeah. It's a comedy. Okay, who else have we? Lou, did we? Oh, Bass, do you want to go ahead?
Hi, am I unmuted? Yeah. I'm sorry I was a bit late. I kind of tried to join from my phone and then I was having to update and go to the App Store and do all sorts of wonderful things. So apologies for being late. I'm from the UK, just outside London in Potters Bar.
Cool. Well, welcome.
Thank you. And I missed the first session you had, maybe last month or the month before. So I was looking forward to this. Thank you.
Good. Glad you could make it. Yeah. And Lou, I think we were going to say.
Oh, yes. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I'm caring for my dad this week. Yes, so today I'm in Suffolk in the UK.
So you get
East
around
Anglia.
also, huh?
Yeah.
Cool. Wonderful. Bridget, did you want to say something?
Oh, I already did. I'm in London.
Oh, okay. I'm sure we've missed somebody. I wonder if there's anyone we've missed. Amy, I don't think we heard you. Are you, is your audio still isn't working? I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Okay, so maybe you can enter in the chat then, so everybody knows where you are. Okay, so I think that, raise your hand, by the way, if you have a question along the way, but we're just going to go, this is just going to be a discussion. So we are going to be doing a webinar for World Childless Week on sensitivity and childlessness. So our first call was just, kind of a get acquainted call. We want to start talking about the relationship between being sensitive and being childless. Does it make it better? Does it make it worse? You may have, it may have taken something like a grieving process like childlessness for you to discover that you were sensitive. So anyway, we just want to start talking about it because we want to understand more about what we want to share with the rest of the childless community on World Childless Week. So this is a discussion. There's no right or wrong answers. Who would like to go first in talking about how they felt about being sensitive and being childless?
I'm happy to go first. Well, I've got some energy, if that's okay.
Okay.
So it was actually through coming to the community, did I maybe twig how much more sensitive, and I'm using inverted commas, I really am to a lot of situations. And I think actually, yes, for me, being sensitive and childless is harder because I notice how it seems that others who don't seem to have maybe the level of sensitivity seem to bounce back, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually. And I'm finding that when we're having to talk about compassion, it seems harder to integrate in a daily way. And I'm almost actually kind of annoyed that I have to almost do more work than, forgive the way I'm going to say, a non-sensitive person does, both with childlessness or non or aspects of, because I'm also single and childless, so it's like a double whammy on top of that. And like today, when I'm feeling unwell, I'm feeling highly emotional, highly not wanting to take care of myself but needing to, feeling like this inner child's upset because she needs looking after but she has to be the bigger person. And some people just would, let's just put, they would say I'm overreacting. I know from starting to learn a lot more from about sensitivity, because I'll be honest, I was kind of reluctant, like, nah, I can't be that person, nah, until I kept seeing little articles like, were you told as a child you're being a bit sensitive, you're being a bit this, and I went, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I know I've got PTSD on top, which I think I was already naturally sensitive when I was younger, but because of the traumatic childhood and other things, I wasn't permitted to be that. And also I will say that as a mixed race person as well, mixed heritage, there's this I'm aware there's the image of like the angry black woman, or in my case I'm half Seychellian, so you're going to be spicy, you're going to be this, and that's misunderstood. It's a contradiction for also being extremely sensitive, because then you're assumed you're highly emotional. And it's all a bit of a mixture when you're, I suppose, not had the right upbringing and other things. They all get mixed in. And I think with the other dynamic of childlessness, in a positive way, thank goodness that you've been a huge present in the community. It's allowed me to gently start exploring. And the fact this is the first time I've met so many other women online who can relate to this, it's actually a relief, because I feel so alone. So so those are the combined experiences. There's more, but I'm going to shut up and rest my voice.
That's okay. Yeah, I think it is common to be misunderstood. And if you do have a complex background, which sounds like you have a very complex one, I would think that it can be, you could feel even more alone, because I mean, most people aren't going to get you. And so I can understand why that would be absolutely miserable. And then on top of that, you have to take care of yourself. I was thinking about this because I'm going to be starting a series of conversations about the new world that's coming around, and hopefully by the spring. And I remember this in the 1980s. There was a saying, if you want to make money, create needs. And what we've done is we've created a lot of needs. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because here we are with all these needs not being met. And if you're childless and single and sensitive and whatever, it's a huge burden to carry, because most of us are not having our needs met. We live in a world that creates a lot of unnecessary needs, and our basic needs don't get met. And that's something to think about, because I do think we're at a time when, as the current system is unraveling, because we do have to rebalance our consumption with what nature can provide. That's something to think about. I mean, how can you perhaps reduce all of the unnecessary needs so your needs really are being taken care of? And I think as a sensitive person, it's particularly important, because you have to make space for the processing of your sensitivity and all of the things you pick up. Sensitivity can be really valuable if you know how to put it to work, if you know what you're encountering and how to use it. It can be wonderful, but that takes some time and energy and learning before you get to a place where you're able to fully utilize it. So anyway, that's just something to think about. We live in a world that is continually trying to consume our time and energy. And the more you can detach from that, the better. So if you can use your grieving process in that way to perhaps put yourself in a better position in terms of your what you put your time and energy into, and therefore how you take care of yourself, that's not necessarily a bad use of the grieving process. So I just want to throw that out. These are very difficult, very tricky times right now. Well, thank you for that, Erica. I hope that helped. Anyone want to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
I have my microphone on, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I resonate a lot with what Erica said. There, you know, I saw a lot of other people on screen like doing this, you know, the nod. So I appreciate that. I don't have a lot to add, but I would say that you know, Maria, you've been hugely helpful, because I think it wasn't until I joined the community in 2020. So it's been, you know, coming up to 3 to 4 years that, and I'm a social worker, and, you know, we weren't taught about the HSP trait, which is really bizarre to me, to be in a mental health helping field and really did not know about HSP. And so it was really enlightening to me, because it was hugely validating to recognize that trait in myself and say, oh, right. And I watched the movie, you know, Sensitive, the movie. It just was so resonant. And it's just like this puzzle piece that fit. And I think it, when you, like Erica, when you have trauma and you're an HSP, that recovery is so much harder, because, you know, you can have 2 children going through the exact same thing, but if one is highly sensitive, then that can impact in such a different way, and the recovery from that can be so much more difficult. And so it's been a I think mostly helpful, but it is a hard process of feeling anything, because as HSP, we feel it really deeply. And, you know, for me, I'll speak for myself, it takes me a lot of time to process all the layers. And often there are many layers, and you think you've got through one, and then, oh, there's another layer of the onion, right? And so I've been trying. I have a few young women in my life, and I've been, you know, I suspect they might be HSP, and so I just say, hey, watch this movie, and, you know, I just try to introduce them to the concept, so that they are not feeling so, because I don't think HSP is really, that those qualities are not typically valued in society. And so we are kind of have a personality trait, and then we also have a social status. And then if you're single on top of that, it's just layers of alienation from what is valued in society and what is sort of, seem to be useful, I guess, right? You know, there's so many things that are, you know, the extrovert, the one who speaks up, the business person, right? And I have family members who are so type A business, where busy and doing is valued way more than being, and processing and relationships and that kind of thing. So I find it harder, but in some ways, having this community, it validates it and gives me that layer of compassion that I've needed to say, oh, this isn't your fault. Like, this is, you know, just as the fact that my eyes are brown, like this is who I am. And so there's a level of acceptance where I can stand up for myself in a way I wasn't able to without having the knowledge. So, but I do think it makes it more difficult being an alienated or a disenfranchised status of childless. And then if you're single on top of that, then having this kind of trait, I think, adds an extra layer of difficulty to it, from my perspective.
Yeah. So how do you think it makes it? Is it just the processing time that makes it harder, or you know, what in particular do you think? I mean, looking at how some people recover from childlessness, do you think it's just?
I think it's the processing time, and I also think it is the fact that I am triggered maybe more easily, or
Mm.
I pick up on the nuances of things
Mhm.
more easily. And so the sensitivity around being othered
Mhm.
is harder. And I don't know if I'd feel the same thing if I was partnered. Like if I were in a healthy partner relationship and I had a companion, and I know that there's a lot of difficulties. I don't want to idolize being partnered because I know it comes with some challenges. But I also think that there's an alienation in being single as well. So I think I have so many things in my life that where I don't fit into the mainstream. And so the sensitivity just is like walking around in the world with with an open wound, a skin, and it's very hard. Like you have to really take time, and I have to retreat from the world often in order to take care of that, sensitive wound. So yeah.
One
So
thing
I mean, I want to give other people a chance to talk, but for me, having this community has been extremely validating, because like here we are, like all these faces on the screen, and like, oh my God, I'm not alone. And I was so glad. I didn't know that you were starting these, Maria. I was just like, oh, this is great. So thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. Yeah, one thing I would point out in talking about, the perception of you is that we live in a culture that covers up its systemic mistake by blaming the individual.
Yes.
So keep that in mind, that when you're being judged, you're often being judged from a cultural perspective, and it has nothing to do with you as an individual. So that's just something for you to keep in mind.
Yeah, and that's what's helped me, like reading some of your articles or hearing other people post. It's like it's taken away that layer of blame that I've heard. Oh, you're too sensitive. Oh, you're too intense. Or, you take things too personally, or like too, you're too much, you're too, and it's just like, no, I feel things deeply. So that's who I am.
Yeah. I think that right now, one of the big challenges going on in the world is that people are fed up with systems that do not take responsibility. And I think part of the big change we're going through is to start to demand systemic accountability, so that maybe that the doors and windows of planes don't fall out, in midair, and all the kinds of different forms of neglect we have going on in so many different areas that are harming people. So accountability is going to be one of the big topics going forward. And so I think that's a welcome relief if you're sensitive, because one of the things you will pick up on is the lack of accountability in the world around you. And so hopefully there'll be more receptivity for the things you pick up on, the wisdom you have to give. So crossing your fingers. We can dream, right? But I think our timing is pretty good, that this is a time when that's going to become more possible. Okay, so let's have somebody else talk about sensitivity and childlessness. Anyone else want to go next?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I agree with everything said so far. It's so validating to hear you guys talking who went before me, and that you said it so eloquently. Things I never hear said. It's just wonderful. I think yes, agree. I think we do, being sensitive, we feel everything more. So we're going to feel the grief more. We'll grieve more deeply, more awareness what we're missing. And I think I know I feel like I feel more resentment than non-mothers who are not sensitive, because I feel more resentment about being isolated, cut out, the prejudice out there that makes you experience those things. On the positive side, I would say compared to more hardy childless non-mothers. I would say I think that as an HSP, I have more awareness about the value of my own life. So I'm less likely to just jump in and orbit around someone else, or think, when people see you don't have children, they try and drag you into their charity, their life, whatever, as like an extra helper. And I have more awareness that that's not the best way for me to be contributing, and maybe a bit more therefore a bit more, what's the word, motivation to find my own way forward and find my own purpose. So I think that's a positive of being an HSP in this situation. Though being sensitive, I think it makes it harder to say no to people because you're aware of their feelings more. But so yeah, as always, pros and cons. And I'm not single yet. I'm separated, so on the way there. And yes, living by myself now. And it's just like someone said, layers of isolation. And I have a chronic illness that makes me isolated. So just so many things that make me feel like I don't belong. And that makes, yes, I then need to retreat more, to hang on to myself. And I think too, both being childless here in this group, we've got like a double whammy, because we're HSPs and we're childless, and both those are minorities. But what makes it really hard is they're both minorities that are not being really recognized yet. Like other minorities are having their day now, and I feel jealous. It's like, what about us? Why don't we deal with all the minorities if we're going to deal with minorities and get the world fair and equal? And so yeah, I have strong feelings about that, and also overwhelmed about that. It's like, oh well, I'm older now, but it's ever going to happen in my lifetime. But I think too, if we can pull together and kind of be the seed planters and the leaders and all this, that's a great thing as well. So, if we have enough people, we don't need everyone to understand. We just need enough people to understand to make us happy. So I think, we can work on that.
Cool. Excellent. Yeah, I think that I was reading this, that the alienation is from ourselves, from each other, from the planet. That's the built-in alienation we've been raised in. And all of this competition that we're subjected to is really a way of maintaining that. And so I think personally that one of the big challenges is to get rid of all of that alienation, which is kind of an interesting thing to do when you think about it. If you accept your sensitivity and your childlessness, and you're no longer alienated from yourself because of that, and you don't accept that that's a reason for social alienation, of course, then you need to think about who you want to spend your time with. That's an important question to ask yourself. And I like the idea of finding your own unique path. I think sensitive people have to do that anyway, but I think if you're sensitive and childless, that's doubly important. So cool. Thank you very much. So does somebody else want to share? Okay, go ahead, Bess.
I have to admit, I sometimes wonder whether I'm sensitive or not,
okay,
or just to put it in context, I think I'm quite binary. I like black and white. And when I'm in a relationship, when I look at my husband and see how sensitive he is, I have so misunderstood some of the behaviors that he's had, and I get frustrated with them after a certain point, like to the extent, that if we go out and socialize, he'll come back and he really needs to just lay down and go to bed. And for years that's frustrated me, and I put it down to things like, oh, he's in a really stressful job or this, but I'm starting to appreciate he's highly sensitive, so he absorbs so much of people's energy that he just needs to sort of switch off. So then I wonder, I'm not like that. So am I HSP? Where I started to notice that I was sensitive was during my childless, whilst we were trying to conceive, and how othered I felt and that I didn't belong until I was going to have a child. Some of that is my own stuff, not other people's, but I felt that I didn't really belong. So I was very just sensitive around stuff, and I thought it was me. Totally thought it was me, that people would say things, and then I take it personally, or just couldn't understand why it would hurt. But I have come from a space where I was never really in touch with my own feelings. And I don't know if I became binary because I couldn't deal with the chaos when I was growing up. So I kind of just switched off and just got insular and want to know what I need to do to operate in this world, rather than deal with the emotions that were not mentioned but were there, so prolific in the house I grew up in. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing that I'm noticing, if I'm around my mother, and I'm really quite sensitive around our relationship. We clash a lot, or either we clash, or either I have to just freeze in her presence and just let her operate. And what I notice though is that if I'm not grounded, I behave the same way as she does in my other close relationships, and I'm not proud of that. And it's a relation. Their behaviors where you're just so not focused on other people. You're just kind of like in this kind of like swirling thing, and that's why I say it was quite chaotic when I was growing up. Lovely home that I grew up in. Parents were loving and worked really hard, but emotional neglect. Emotionally so neglected. So I think I just became insular because I didn't know how to deal with the chaos of the unspoken emotions and stuff. So I'm finding that I am sensitive, but I wouldn't have said I was sensitive when I was a younger child. So I'm kind of in this, I don't know where I fit in kind of space.
Oh, okay. All right. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, there are different kinds of sensitivity. There are some people who don't pick up on the emotions of others so much. Empaths do. So I guess there are differences in our nervous systems. So an empath would absorb the energy around them. That maybe your husband may be in that category. But there are some sensitive people who don't. So
Okay.
I would encourage you to read the book, The Highly Sensitive Person, and see how much of that. And there's I think on Dr. Aaron's website, there is a questionnaire. So I encourage you to take that and see, where you fit. Because if you have had to shut down in order to survive, it may be hard for you to discern the degree to which you are sensitive. I mean, we all have feelings, right? But with sensitivity, our nervous system picks up on so many things. And so it really is a nervous system with it's created by our nervous system. It's really more biological actually than a personality. And our personalities, of course, are very, very much affected by the fact that we have this biology that picks up on everything going on. And it's very hard to deal with, because if you're not being received in your environment, then you don't get the validation, and it can make it very, very difficult for you to survive as a person, when particularly in your younger environments, but even as an adult. A lot of what we pick up on isn't really something that people are receptive to. And so it's very hard to connect with other people, because, there are a lot of people who don't want to hear what you need to say to them, and you can't spend your whole life having difficult conversations. This is not a good thing. You want to have something more rewarding going on in your relationship. So you always have these dilemmas around your conversations. So a lot of people may shut down just because it's that difficult to be in an environment where what you see and what you feel can't be received or validated, and sometimes even punished. People are punished for seeing what they really see all over the world. So not just in the Western world, but all over. So yeah, read the book and take the quiz, and it'll help you understand where you're at.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Who else would like to share? These are great discussions. Laura. Okay. How are you?
I think, hi, I'm okay, thanks. I've known I'm a highly sensitive person for quite a number of years. I had a friend who was an occupational therapist who first kind of pointed that the book you just mentioned out to me, and it resonated. I think things have changed for me since becoming childless, since realizing that is the life I'm going to have. I think I've always seen my sensitivity as, I mean, it can be a strength, you know, being able to see others in need and being able to look after them. I think it's made me a better friend at times. It's made me somebody who's able to support people who needed it. So it's helped me, and it's helped me in my job as well as friendships, as well as looking after siblings who are ill and all sorts of things. But where it's changed is when we had our last round of IVF, and that was it. The reaction of my husband was just so otherworldly to me. We realised that he had something called alexithymia, which is where he perceives emotions differently. He can't perceive them a lot of the time. He's able to put them in a box and decide, no, I don't want to feel that. And he's fine with that. So he doesn't feel grief. He puts it in a box and doesn't feel it because he doesn't see it as a useful emotion. Wow. He can't understand how I feel. So whilst you might have somebody who's kind of middling in being able to sense other people's emotions, and we might be, say, really sensitive up here, he is down here. So we've got this total juxtaposition of where we are emotionally. And so going through childlessness with the only person in my world who seems to be able, who should, I feel, be able to be in it with me, and him not being in it is tough. And it's made me change the way I use that sensitivity now. Having received zero support from my friendship group in the grief, I realised I have to stop perhaps looking after them so much and turning that energy to looking after me more. And that's something that I am really battling with, because then it feels like I'm being uncaring to the rest of the world, which doesn't feel like who I am and my identity. So there's been a bit of an identity crisis with being childless, and in ways that I didn't expect.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm so sorry about your husband not being able to be with you through this process. That is a very hard thing. I know what that feels like because I had someone who wasn't with me in the process of grieving. I was kind of on my own, and I really felt like I was hanging out there on a limb all by myself. And it's a very painful thing, a very painful feeling of abandonment. And when you're all in and you discover that other people aren't, it can be a hard truth to try to accept. It can feel a little bit like a betrayal. It can feel like you're being used. And I think you are right to start looking at taking care of yourself. It may be part of the journey for you to begin to spend some time thinking about what are the kinds of things I want to do for other people that I would that would be right for me as a caring person. Because I think it is true that people do delegate caring sometimes to other people, and when in fact they should own their own responsibilities when it comes around to caring. And if you're a highly sensitive person, you may pick up on that and want to be helpful. And it may, in fact, be harming you because you're not being treated with the respect that you should be getting. I saw recently someone wrote that, and I thought it was true, that when we cooperate, we get feelings of joy. And so it's part of our natures, I think, if you're sensitive, you want to cooperate with the people around you and being supportive and connecting and doing things for them and participating in whatever your social environment is. There's a joy in that participation. But if you're with people who are not really reciprocating in a way that works for you, then you may want to give some thought to that, because you do need people who are going to be in the boat with you. It sounds like you have had, if I'm understanding you, Laura, it sounds like you have been involved with people who have not necessarily reciprocated in a way that works for you. Am I reading you correctly?
Yeah, I've had to go through this grief alone, and I've had little bits initially from my sisters, but other than that, it's been pretty much zero. So it's really nice to find this community, but it does feel like there's a huge amount of that toughening up thing that I hate people saying, grow a thicker skin and everything. But yeah, it's finding a place where I can feel like my sensitivity is soothed, I suppose, is kind of where I'm at the minute. Because I'm finding I'm not getting to use it on other people because I feel alienated from them, and it feels a little bit too one way now. Like, it's always been a little bit heavier on my side or stronger on my side, but now I feel like I'm trying to set some boundaries for myself here, but it does feel quite hard to do that and still be me.
Yeah, I don't think you have to toughen up, but I do think it's worth taking time instead, as an alternative, to look at what you want you put your time and energy into. So it may be that there is this kind of, you can look over your life and the people you've been involved with who haven't been so reciprocating, who've expected you to do for them, and start saying, okay, I'm not going to be putting energy into doing this for other people. I'm not going to be putting my energy into doing this. I'll put my energy into this. And so when you start to do that, it's not a matter of toughening up. It's more a matter of taking that energy you have and deciding this is what I'm going to put it into. It's more life affirming, and it's more self-respecting when you say, this is what I'm going to be about. So, I mean, it sounds like you like to work on helping people, and maybe you need to spend some time thinking about in what way and what kinds of things do you want to do for them, that work for you and for others, so that you don't feel taken advantage of. And you can use what wisdom you have in a way that actually does accomplish something for someone else, rather than just being taken advantage of. Does that work for you?
Yes, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's a good discussion to have, talking about what you're going to put your time and energy into. So you're not really saying that you're not really abandoning others. You're going to let them take care of themselves and do that, their part in that. But you're deciding this is what is a good use of my time and energy. In other words, your life matters, and you want, as we've said before, your life matters, and what do you want to do with it? Well, you can't just be going around the world propping other people up, or doing all this kinds of stuff to help others, when in fact they probably should be doing that themselves. That's not really fair to you. And so part of setting boundaries is really to be more fair to yourself. Yeah. Marlene?
Yeah, I can relate a lot to what Laura said. And I might have mentioned this, I did the Magic of Joy with you, which was really amazing. And I found too, I think you had an expression that kind of, it was about pinning the tail on the donkey. Don't allow yourself to be the donkey. And it kind of, when my dad was dying a few years ago, I had two sisters in the area. And, I thought, oh, all three of us will pitch in, but, it ended up, it was really just me in the end. And so I just know that people will just take advantage of you, if you just allow yourself to do that. And for me, being empathetic, it's just, and then childless, it just seemed like, no, we can't do that. We just have to put ourselves, don't sacrifice your life for these other people, do your part, make suggestions. I did get a caretaker in place, personal caretaker, but still, the amount of time and amount of your life that you give up trying to be helpful or cooperative. I'm not saying I got a lot out of taking care of my dad, and, it was very healing, but at the same time, it took a lot of my oomph, so anyway. Yeah, so I appreciate that. And I just remembered your saying, and you said it, so it was just so funny the way you said it. Don't yourself to be the donkey.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think people do like to lean on those who are more empathetic and all of that kind of thing. And I mean, certainly in my family, I was kind of a go-to person for a long time, and I've had to, shut down a lot of that. Fortunately, I don't have a lot of family members around me, for good or for bad. But yeah, people will be more than happy to kind of cop out in a way on doing the things that they should be doing for themselves, and you can't do it for them. And so you're really looking for people to show up and be in the boat with you, as Laura was talking about. It's a very painful thing when people won't, and they expect you to cover for them. That's basically what codependency is. And we live in a very codependent world. So in some ways, as sensitive people, we struggle with that because we can see the need and we have hearts. And it really isn't fair to our hearts to have people not to continually cop out and put the things they should be dealing with on us. And I don't mean that in a cruel way. People do have their traumas and their grief experiences that they can only process, to a certain degree, it takes time. And so there's a certain amount of kindness that is necessary, but you have to put limits on it. And if you don't put limits on it, your time and energy will be consumed. And you will find that you are just drained and you really don't have anything for it. And then other people will be just kind of feeding off of that and leaving you to kind of pick up the pieces, the things that they don't want to deal with. And it's not fair at all.
Yeah, well, I learned a lot from that experience and also from your magic of joy. It really helped with that. I thought with that.
I'm glad that helped.
Joke. But yeah, I had the sister with the teenagers. Well, I can't because this and so anyway, I learned a lot, but it was healing. But for people that haven't been there yet, be careful.
Yeah. The thing I love about the times we're living in spite of the big mess, is that we are going to be shifting out of this more codependent world because it's not sustainable. That's why. This is not anti-capitalism. It's just, it isn't sustainable. Into a world that's more grounded. And I think that, the alienation we were talking about from yourself, others, and nature, and all of that is going to be things that we have to work on, all of us. And so I think there are opportunities to move into new areas, different kind, you don't have to be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever in order to be successful anymore in this new world. It's going to be much more egalitarian, much more holistic, and much healthier. But we have a long way to go in getting there. And I think that, if you want to look around and become familiar with some of the new things that are coming down the pike as we have developed this new culture, you may find places to put your time and energy that keep you from feeling like you're just being used to prop up an old system that isn't working. And so you can then become involved in creating something that's really good and really healthy for yourself and others. So I always recommend that people go to resilience.org, because that's where a lot of the voices of the new world are. It's one of the top places. And but also take a look at where you might place yourself in this new world. There's a woman by the name of Deborah Frieze, Frieze. She did a TED Talk on localism. And that may seem like a strange thing to be talking about on a call about sensitivity, but I want you guys to have a way to make life work for you. Anyway, in this TED Talk, she talks about how localism is emerging, but she talks about 4 different roles that are the kinds of roles that you can consider for yourself as we go through this big cultural transition that might give you a starting point to begin to see where you belong in this new cultural world that's emerging. So there's a couple of things you can do, and hopefully that will help you. And we can always talk about it within the community if there's something you want to ask about. All right. Any questions or anything right now? Who would like to go next? Jane, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Yeah, when people were talking about siblings in terms of, and I went all through the caregiving with my parents, and, they're long gone. And anyway, it was something that I did, and I did it willingly, and I chose to do that. And but then when there were times when it was like, where are the others, And then it was like, and there was one particular sister who said, yeah, you're the one that should be. You don't have kids. And it was just like, yes, it royally pissed me off. Okay. It was like, you better believe there was resentment there on that one. And it's just like, no, I did this because I chose to do it. Okay. Don't be expecting that just because, there you go. And I guess there's another sister who has said to me many times, like, how sensitive I am. And she's like, you feel things really deeply, don't you? And it's like, yeah, I do. But, the whole concept of HSP was new to me until I came to this group. And it was, and I haven't, this is my first, one of these that I've been to for specifically HSP. I watch all the firesides, but this is the first time I've participated in one of these. And I guess it was interesting to me just, I joined this group when I very first joined Gateway a couple of years ago. But again, I haven't done any work in here, in specifically HSP. So it's very interesting to me to hear this. And I guess with this one particular sister, sometimes we would kid around when she would, she would just shoot. She would have compassion sometimes when she would say, you really do feel things deeply, don't you? And I appreciated that she could acknowledge that. The flip side was sometimes it was like, you feel things so deeply, and in other words, and we would joke around sometimes, and I would call her an alien, she would call me just like, and we talk about alienation, but I'm sometimes thinking you really are an alien. Like you have an ability to detach that to me is like not normal. Okay. So that's just me. Okay. So we would joke around sometimes about that, and then, and she would say, she would acknowledge like, yeah, you pesky humans with your emotions, and it was just like, seriously. So then the other thing is sometimes I would just say to her, you know what, I just can't do the toxic positivity anymore. I just can't do it, because it's like, where does that leave me to go? It doesn't leave me with anywhere to go with what I'm feeling and to be able to process it. So, and then when I told her that, she was like, no, in other words, but it's like I hear the words, but really the message is oftentimes like good vibes only, and it's just like, hey, that's cool, and it's not cool. Okay. So it's like just wanting to have the freedom to be who I am, what I'm feeling, when I'm feeling it, and that childlessness is a huge one. And I went literally decades before finding this community. So for me, it's just like I have, in some ways, decades worth of catching up to do in terms of that I didn't have anywhere to go with childlessness. So, I'm just beyond grateful to have found this place. And anyway, I appreciate your doing this.
My pleasure.
Today. I missed the last one. When I saw that one, I thought, I'd really like to join that, and I wasn't able to. But anyway, I get so much out of every Zoom cafe in whatever forum in the community, and I've just been blown away by oh my goodness, just the wisdom, the kindness, the compassion, the care. So I just wanted to say it's nice to meet you personally, and I thank you for what you're doing. And I love listening to everything that everyone shared today, and can so resonate, can so relate with so much of what's been shared here today.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I think we need the wisdom. Toxic positivity is kind of interesting because it's a form of denial, and I think it's just a coping mechanism. And we have a huge need to get our feet back on the ground. We're not grounded. We have lost contact with any sort of practicality in the world, and we need practicality. And so, when you're in touch with your feelings, when you're doing your grieving process, there is a practicality that comes with that because it helps you to see what works and what doesn't work. And that's important information for you to notice. And that's one of the things I think that can come from sensitivity. A lot of people treat sensitive people like they're just a bunch of flakes. Well, maybe we're good flakes. If we're flakes at all, I don't think we're flakes. I think that we pick up on what's going on around us. And it's interesting to me the degree to which people really don't want to hear about it. I personally think that we can use our sensitivity in a way that helps us live in a healthy, grounded, constructive way. And that's the kind of thing that I'm very interested in and interested in promoting. So sensitivity actually is a way to be grounded if you allow it. But in a lot of ways, we're pushed into fitting into a little box, into a role, but that has nothing to do with living in a constructive way. That keeps us in the codependent model of propping everybody up, keeping everyone happy and keeping everyone going. That's actually destroying us in the world. It's just we're not dealing with our real problems in healthy and constructive ways. And so that's part of the journey right now. We're going to have to come back down to earth. And it certainly is messy as we start to do that. So very good. Wonderful discussion. Erica, you had something you want to ask?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to make sense or not because I can relate to what Vaz said actually earlier on in a conversation, not knowing if you're sensitive or not. And I sometimes do feel, and maybe this is a question, somehow wrapped up in words, that I think for me, what's clouded my ability to be sensitive or to engage in the process that you're talking about, to be grounded, is all the intergenerational traumas, being told for a lifetime of stereotypes that you have to toughen up or pull your socks up. And it's left, sometimes I query if I'm sensitive because I think I'm so exhausted, profoundly exhausted, like on such a deep level, that even engaging in this conversation or engaging in the can't say the word HSP, has been a very slow and difficult process because it's like, nah, I'm tougher than that. I can manage, because I've had to, and I'm still having to. I'm still in survival mode. And it sounds awful. There's no space to being grounded or sensitive. You've got to get on with it. That sounds so, when I'm saying it, I can hear how harsh that's sounding because because I'm single, I don't feel propped up. I don't yet feel, though I have this wonderful community, I don't feel safe yet to engage in anybody here to kind of pick up the phone or send a message, go, I'm having a special. And I don't know, or I'm just freaking out and I don't know, I'm feeling safe with that, or just saying, or praising, or even noticing, because the other side, when you're talking, what I'm noticing is lacking for me, is I I still feel like I need training or guidance that there are positives with all of this, that you can have a job, a life, a lifestyle that can be created, be actually integrated and whole, whilst I'm going to say others around me are really not understanding or going to understand. And there are massive consequences of that because at the moment, it feels like when Jodie Day talks about the Friends apocalypse, it feels like every other social thing goes into apocalyptic mode while you're reorganizing or coming to terms with sensitivity, never alone engaging in boundaries, which feels harder work than other people's boundaries to create. So I guess my question in a weird way is, how on earth do we unravel all this and help each other more when, for some of us, the element of sensitivity, like I'm going through, maybe Vash is going through, and I will say, because I've also have experienced a lot of racism and stuff like that, there are cultural things there too that make it difficult to permit me being fully the sensitive, wonderful human being that's somewhere in there, because my empathy has been so exhausted. I'm going to the other side, and that scares me. It's like I hardly have any, or I can't be dealing with it, or I'm overwhelmed. Everything on the TV or anything to do within my own family, I'm like complete shutdown. And I'm feeling a great deal of shame. And I'd love to know what's out there. How do we support each other? How do we create more spaces? There's a lot of questions to allow that it's okay to feel this sense of shame whilst I'm rebuilding myself or others are rebuilding, because there's sometimes I'm hearing those who are organically sensitive who's still in tune. I'm almost kind of envious because I go in between. You're going, I'm exhausted. And that's not fair to anybody who's highly sensitive all the time. It's exhausting for them. But there's an inclination of what you got to do. You got a clue when I'm shut down. I'm just like, I just can't be doing. So that's just my comments. But what everybody has offered here today has been unbelievably helpful, so insightful, so validating. So thank you.
Sure. Let me just say something about that. I think for a lot of people, it's very scary, the idea of this system falling apart, and that's legitimate. And I personally think at this point that it can't be saved. But there are things that can be saved. So we have a lot of resources and all that have been built up and all of that. But we also have very authoritarian systems, and authoritarian systems are very invested in creating trauma and creating victimhood on their part in order to control everybody else. So control is all they want. They don't really care about quality of life. They don't care about your well-being. They don't care about any of that. And so understanding that whole way of doing things in life, it's done. That's a step, because it'll help you to detach yourself from that. You do want to detach yourself from that. And you probably need to become quite certain in your boundaries when it comes around to engaging with the authoritarian behaviors and authoritarians around you. To say, no, that's not something that I'm going to have in my life. I mean, for me, that's been absolutely essential, because I grew up in an authoritarian household. And I realized that authoritarians aren't going to change. And the authoritarians we have here in the United States, they don't want change. They're certainly letting us know that. And so I am more than happy just to say, okay, enough is enough. I'm not going to keep trying to make something work that isn't going to work. And once you let go of trying to make things work that don't work, then you can start asking yourself, what do we really need? We need a healthy world. We need to have our basic needs met. We need communities where people can relate to one another and show kindness to one another, have conversations about what they need and what they need to do together. So there are a lot of things we do need. And we're going to have to create them, because what we're doing right now is actually creating a totally new culture. We're exiting the whole survival story. We're exiting the whole authoritarian story. So if you want to have thriving, you can't have this that we have, because this is not about thriving. Thriving isn't survival with money. Survival is something easier and more natural, where basic needs get met, and where people are able to be in conversation in their communities, where they actually have a thing called trust, which a lot of authoritarians love to get rid of. They love to try to create distrust in order to destroy connection. And so actually, a thriving world is a much gentler, simpler world. And so we're going to be shifting out of, this mess, because we just can't anymore. As you said, Erica, and a lot of people have said, they're exhausted from it. That's legitimate. And that's something to pay attention to and honor, and say, I really can't, you really want to go down this road of having distrust around you and creating disparagement and putting people down and creating more alienation. We're just not going to be able to work together. And you're going to have to set some boundaries around that. I would encourage you to consider that. To the extent that you can in your life. Now, you may be in a job or working where, that might be a little bit difficult, where you can keep your relationships more on task or transactional if necessary. But I would encourage you to really take a look at those parts of your life where you're finding there's a lot of distrust, a lot of drama. You can just look at it in terms of drama and drama making. and see to what extent you can start to remove some of that in your life. And the other thing I would do just to get started is to simplify as much as possible, because we are going to have to reduce our consumption, become more aligned with what the earth can handle and support. And so simplifying your life and getting rid of things that you don't need, that's one of the strongest things you can do to make sure that you are taking care of yourself going forward. So there are a couple of things you can do right now: simplification, looking at what you're involved in to get rid of those people who are more interested in the drama and the nastiness, keep them away from you. That will relieve some of the burden on your sensitive system. So I hope that helps. Does anyone else want to offer some ideas and thoughts? I can't. Let me see. Oh, good. I'm glad. I was just looking to see if Amy, did you want to say something? I was just looking to see if there was something in the chat from you. Okay. Oh, good, Sharon. I'm glad you're going to declutter.
Yes, sorry, I really resonated with that piece, because a part of me when I hear you talk feels really overwhelming, because I don't like, it just feels like, how do I get there? Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And as an HSP, I find my energy is limited, and I easily get overwhelmed, and so I shut down, and so there's this pattern of that, right? So my goal is just like, how can we start here where we are in a simple way, to be able to do that? And it's good to hear that, okay, that, my inclination is decluttering, get rid of stuff, simplify. But for me, I do better with deep interpersonal connection, right? And I find that's hard to build, even in this community, honestly, because we have these kinds of Zoom calls, which is great. I'm not disparaging that, but on the other hand, I feel like I need to build one-on-one connection with people, or smaller intimate groups, because I feel like I can take action a little bit better and grasp onto what I can do today, tomorrow. If it feels too vague for me, I'll get overwhelmed, and I don't know what to do. Like, that just feels too big and I don't know what to do. And then I'll shut down. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, but that's not a bad process, actually, because basically, I mean, that's how I've kind of gotten where I am, is by doing things in bite sizes. So, you have to go deep, and otherwise you're really just, you're messing around, and you're not really doing anything of real value. And so you really do have to go deep. So you might as well, take it one step at a time. I mean, for me, simplifying, I would just start with maybe start with putting together a little bit of a list, and just seeing where you think you need to, do some simplifying where it can benefit you. And I would just take one thing at a time, and let that be enough. And as far as relationships go, pick one interest area, something that really you think matters to you, and maybe see if you can find a group and just start to learn to meet a few people with that interest, and just start really small, because we are going to become more local. And that means doing things where we connect with others and having conversations with other people. So that's actually a good thing, that you're looking for that, because that is one of the things we're going to have to be doing. We're going to be creating much more community. Community itself is a whole big topic area where there may be opportunities for you for work, but also just to meet other people. So That can be wonderful.
I think the hard thing is I don't envision my future here in Toronto.
Okay.
So how much do I invest in community here when I don't see me retiring here or living here down the road? And so I think that's the that's the balance I'm trying to strike right now, is trying to focus on my living environments, trying to simplify that and getting that to a place where I feel okay with it, but also needing the connection. So, trying to balance the two. And most of my deepest connections are not local anyways.
Well, it sounds like you're in transition, so be kind to yourself.
Yeah. But, just I think it helps me personally, just in terms of these conversations, is to try to get granular in just what can we do today, tomorrow.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, Vass, you came next, and then Julie.
I just wanted to say something for Shah. With the decluttering, I mean, I've got loads to do, but came from when I was reading Tosha Silver's book, It's Not Your Money. And she speaks about decluttering, and even if it's just clearing your handbag out for that day, it's just a corner of a cupboard. I mean, I think I always used to thought I should have everything in sorted out in one go. I know that's impossible, but I kind of had that expectation that I should get to this point where it's all done. Realizing that's unrealistic, but even if it was just a drawer I just cleared out, and she said, don't worry about if you don't know what to do. You will be in the day, you'll just be drawn towards an area. And even if it's just clearing out your handbag, it kind of opens up space, I find, and stuff comes in, good stuff comes in. So don't be afraid of tackling small things for the day. So I found that was really useful for me. Even if it's got a clutter of bottles in a corner in the shower room, and I'm thinking, right, today I'm going to throw those out. I don't need those bottles that I was keeping. I wanted the label or this. And I find that's really helpful for me. Just small. So when you said keep small tasks, that really helps.
Yeah, I agree. What happens to me is like I was on a roll before Christmas, and then I just was hit with this huge like I was sick, and then I got, the grief stuff and the family stuff, and it just all sort of hit me. And then I kind of lost the momentum of, continuing on the decluttering process. And so I sort of need to pick it up again. And, I agree, just that starting small is helpful. So even just the encouragement
of just doing one little thing a day.
Yeah.
And then let it go.
Yeah.
So it's not this big thing you have to tackle.
Yeah.
Good.
I hear it. Thank you. Yeah.
Julie, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I've realized that listening this time to the discussion, that I'm feeling the same kind of almost guilt or lack of entitlement that I feel when I hear, because I'm well and truly post-retirement age, and I hear a lot in the world generally of kind of, you've spent your life towards women, you've spent your life looking after other people, you've given up things, you've sacrificed your time and energy to your family. Now it's your turn. And I have felt every time I've kind of come across that, I've found it really undermining and really kind of it makes me feel it's like a kind of double whammy. Not only have I not had that family, but now I'm not even entitled to kind of put myself first because I haven't earned it. And I felt that thing, I'm not sure that maybe I don't know whether I'm sort of sensitive, but in a different way, because I can't recognize that I've spent much time and energy giving to other people, sort of mistakenly. And maybe I have when I've been with partners and things, maybe I have, but my kind of memory of my history is that I've spent most of it, or at least half of it, quite focused on myself because I've had to try and survive, and I haven't had anything left over to give anybody else. I've just had to, for long periods of time, had to concentrate on getting through the day. And, so I kind of think, maybe I'm not legitimate. Maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe it's not legitimate. Do you know what I mean? I'm exaggerating, but I'm just a bit confused, I think. And a bit thinking, oh God, I haven't been a giving person like everybody else is saying.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I assume you've been working really hard.
As in paid work kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, part of that was wondering where the hell I was going to get money from to live on, and doing all sorts of things to survive. And so yeah, for many years working full time. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think that's been true for many people, many women. When I started out in life, where women worked was called the Pink Ghetto. And it was, and we had just liberalized our divorce laws, and there was no child support. There was no support at all. And people were just kind of being thrown out. And, the world has been a very precarious place for women. And if you're sensitive and working, work does take more time and energy because you have to do the processing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
And it's very hard sometimes when you're sensitive to do the processing work and also be fast enough.
Yeah.
I had a man who's he's a doctor in the UK. I had a conversation with him once, and he was talking about the thing that frustrates him is that he'll be in a conversation with someone will say something, and he knows he needs to say something back, and that he just doesn't process it fast enough, and then the time passes, and then he feels like an idiot, and that he didn't take care of himself. And you get into that when you're sensitive and you're in the workforce, and it's just a really hard thing to deal with all the time, and you feel like you're too weak or you're too slow or you're this or that, and you can start becoming hard on yourself. And until you know that it's just your sensitivity, it can be demoralizing.
Yeah. And of course, that then has made me feel very much of the time like a square peg in a round hole, because for all the obvious reasons, really. Yeah, and I've seen some. Wait a minute. Mary says, with what we knew then, Julie, do not blame yourself in capital letters. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to ask you.
70s, sorry.
That's good.
And 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Maria, is, I love to hear you talk about the sort of the vision of the future. There will be community will be more important, things will be local, there will be more kindness, different values, things to do with the environment. But I find myself thinking, but how do you know? Because you sound so sure, which is great, but I just kind of think, but what if it doesn't? And how do we know it will? And what is it
get that from?
Yeah. I suppose that's the question, yeah.
I study spiral dynamics. I'm trained in it. And spiral dynamics is it's a framework for understanding cultural systems. And as a species, we develop through cultural systems, and every cultural system is a project. So tribe was the project of community. Capitalism was the project of material well-being through science and progress. They're projects, and they have limited scope. And
Okay.
so they come into being for a reason, and then at some point we need something new. And so capitalism now has and it's a whole systemic thing. But anyway, the consumption is too great for what the earth can handle, and there's too many people, 8 billion of us now.
Yeah.
And that's just not sustainable. So that combined with some of the other issues with prior cultural systems like authoritarianism that have not really been dealt with. And that's one of the problems with human culture. You know, we have the small focus, and then there are a lot of things we don't deal with, like racism and slavery and, you know, all those kinds of things. They build up over time and they become a problem. So anyway, the whole point of our cultural systems has been to create survival. And so we've done that. So now we actually have to exit that theme. So all of our, it's amazing to me when I look at our entertainment, even fashion, it's all very survival oriented. And we're actually going to have to move out of the theme of survival, because all of the war, all of the conflict, all of the ways we've approached life as being largely adversarial and dangerous, we're actually creating the danger that's killing us. And so we need a new way. And there's a lot more to this. But anyway, we're going to have to move into a more socially egalitarian way. And we're also going to have to get our feet back on the ground. So we're going to be basically taking what we have created and start saying, okay, how do we create a world which is actually not adversarial? It's actually creating thriving. If you want to have thriving, you can't overconsume. You know, it just doesn't work because you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I'm sure there was a time when there was so many natural resources, people didn't worry about it, but we have to worry now. And so a lot of our human activity is actually pushing us into a place where we now have to say we have to do things differently. And so a lot of the work that's being done, whether it's Joanna Macy's Great Turning, resilience.org does a lot of work on implementing new communities that are egalitarian. I mean, and there's a lot of work like permaculture, all of these different things that have been going on for a long time. We're almost at a point now where all of these different new ways of doing things will enable us to create a new culture. And I think that we are going to have to probably have universal basic income. I think that's coming. AI is destroying jobs left and right. It's making a mess of things in some ways. And so we're on this trajectory where I think we're going to have quite a bit of technology doing a lot of things for us. I think a lot of jobs will go away. And I think if and when we do universal basic income, and I don't see another alternative, maybe I'm just unimaginative, that's going to free us then to start doing things differently. So I think we'll have to be focused more locally because we're running out of oil. There's only like 35, 45 years worth of oil left in the ground. So, you know, we don't have a choice anymore. The environmental issues are going to be number one, and they're going to drive change. And so, you know, we're at the point where we have to change, but we can make it a good thing.
Yeah. I suppose I'm just less optimistic about thinking that we will actually do that rather than just destroy ourselves.
Well,
because you know, environmentally, I don't in this country and probably in the States, I imagine what I see is the reversal of any initiatives that might have been taken or have been taken.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a question. I don't think it's a given that we're going to do it. And so we don't know actually, and we don't know what it's going to take actually. I mean, I can see where we have to be headed. I can see some of the things that will go into that. And basically, I know the system as it is right now can't be saved, even though people are going to fight change. So will we make it? Maybe we won't, but I'm going to put my energy into
Sure. Yeah.
Because that's all I can do. And at least I'm okay with me and what I'm trying to contribute. And so that's and if you join with other people, at least it doesn't feel quite so hopeless. And I think, giving yourself that gift right now is a good thing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thanks.
Good. Yeah, Spiral Dynamics there's a book called Spiral Dynamics if you want to look into it. It's a fairly heavy read, but it's worthwhile because it will give you the frameworks for all the different cultures. And I've been working with it for over 20 years, and I'm always learning something new as I process my energy. It's one of the things I use to work with my sensitive energy. So it's really great for that. Yeah. And it helps you to understand what you're seeing from another perspective. And you begin to develop an understanding of what you're seeing so that you don't need the validation of other people. Really important when you're sensitive that you don't need the validation of other people. So, sure, my pleasure. All right, oh my goodness, it's 12:30. I'm open to staying if other people want to talk about something or want to share their particular perspective. I don't force people, but I'm happy to let everyone talk if they would like to. Is there anyone else who would like to talk? Okay. Amy, we didn't get to hear from you today, at least with sound. I see you've been active in the chat, and the idea of changing the world appeals to you. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, everyone. So I guess we'll sign off, and I will get the recording in the community sometime today. And it was lovely that all of you could come, and I appreciate it. So
Maria?
again, yep.
I just had a question. You said really important when you're sensitive that you don't need the something of other people.
Validation. Validation. Yes.
That's great to hear.
To the extent that you can do without it, it's a good thing. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.